What is up, duelists? Arts and Crofts here, once again bringing you your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format action. Today's feature match, we've got Geisty versus John Doe 297. As always, both players rated in the top 200 of the Dueling Book GOAT format ladder at the time this match was played, and specifically these two players ranked quite a bit above the top 200. Geisty with a whopping 1659 rating at the time this match was played, probably number one. I didn't check immediately before getting this replay, but close to number one, if not number one here. And then John Doe sub 12 or above 1200 as well. Very respectable. Definitely two of the top duelists on the ladder today. Let's hop right into it. Looks like Geist is going to win that RPS. We'll be going first. Now, as most of us GOAT format aficionados know, Geisty is a chaos control enjoyer, so would not be surprised to see them running that classic list that we all love to see from them. Gonna lead out with just a bunch of back row pass there. So interesting start. No monster committed to the board just yet. We'll see what John Doe can do from here. We're gonna get to main phase one with no trap dust shoot. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, we do have trap dust shoot. Okay, so we're gonna get to peek at what both players are playing. Geisty's hand, BLS and Breaker, definitely could be Chaos Control here. Two cards that are going to be played. John Doe, looks like they might just be running good old Chaos Turbo. Breaker is the only Dust Shoot target here. Jar of Greed and Upstart Goblin are both cards that are pretty nice to have into Dust Shoot. Card Destruction, not so much, especially when you have no discard fodder in hand. But Heavy Storm might line up nicely with Geisty's 3 back row here. So it could be an interesting game one, even though this Breaker is being sent back. All right, John Doe probably fires off this Upstart here. Yep, as expected, and then maybe fires off the Heavy. We're going to go Pot of Greed, so Upstart into Pot is pretty nice. Got to be pretty happy with that if you're John Doe. We're going to solemn that from Geisty, though, saying, you know what, I don't want you to draw into any monsters just yet. Not letting you go plus, keeping card advantage at parity. It's going to cost Geisty 4,500 life points, but I guess maybe realizing that Heavy Storm is probably coming down anyway, so you're going to have to use this. So you might as well use it on the Pot of Greed, I guess is the idea there. All right. Weird sequencing, but is what it is. John Doe, going to set a couple back row. I guess keep that Heavy Storm in hand, and we're just kind of chilling. I guess the idea being, if Geist is willing to Solemn Judgment the Pot of Greed, you're probably not going to get that much value out of your Heavy Storm. Maybe you think Geisty has like a Channable, could be a Jar of Greed or something, to make the Heavy not actually get that much value so far. But as things stand, we're just basically equal going into turn 2. Geist losing a bunch of life points, but John Doe not having any threats here. And Geist is moving forward with, basically complete info here. Sets are got to be Jar of Greed and Torrential Tribute are pretty much guaranteed to be those two. Could be like a weird Bluff Set Heavy or something as well. Slightly in the range, but you expect Jog and Torrential here as the two sets. See what Geisty can do. We knew that they had Breaker in hand, so going to fire that off. Could just run it into the Torrential. Could hit a nasty Bluff set from John Doe. We'll see. I feel like if you're John Doe, you probably are fine not Torrentialing this, honestly. And if your other set is Jar of Greed, it's like not the end of the world. You could just shotgun the Torrential here, though. Just so that it doesn't, there's a 50-50 chance here with the Breaker to pop something. So depends on if John Doe feels like risking it or not. We're just going to fire off the Torrential. It's known anyway, so Geisty's going to play around it. So I think that kind of makes sense out of John Doe. This is probably the best you'll get for this Torrential at any point in this game. Just a nice little 1-for-1. Eliminate the tempo from Geisty. Not the end of the world. Now we know Geist does have BLS in hand, so getting a Dark Engrave gets him halfway to the boss monster. John Doe got to be prepared for that sometime soon, probably. John Doe going to draw for turn. We've got Jar of Greed coming through, as expected. Draw back up 4 cards in hand, so playing into potential second Trap Dust Shoot here out of Geist, which is interesting, but as we saw before, not too many monsters in hand, so maybe he doesn't really care. Maybe trying to, bait Geisty into whiffing potentially. And we're just going to go straight past there, okay? So both players a little bit bricked here. Might be in for a long one, which honestly, favors the control player, generally. Although Geist is pretty low on life here compared to John Doe. We're going to go Jar of Greed here out of Geist. Draw back up a little bit. And then we're going to go Normal Summon Tribe. So just getting a beater on board. Start whittling away. Not too much that the known cards in John Doe's hand can do to stop this, so seems fair to me. John Doe is just going to set a back row pass, sure. Geist likely just going to continue to beat in with this tribe here. Firing off Upstart first, though. Dig a little bit further into the deck and then get in for 16. Cool. So clock the opponent. Oh, and we found another monster as well, so going to set it and add a back row. So Geisty slowly making progress here, close to equalizing the life point disparity, and John Doe a little bit under pressure at this point in time. We're going to go Jar of Greed here again, so both players desperately trying to churn through their deck and find the playable stuff. Lots of upstarts, lots of jogs being used so far this game from both players. And John Doe found themselves a Thunder Dragon, so going to thin the deck even further, confirming that they are on a Chaos list. Then we're going to go fire off that known Heavy Storm. Geisty, of course, prepared for it. We're going to change Jar of Greed, and then their Bluff Set Nobleman of Crossout's going to get hit, but that's not the end of the world, just a 1-for-1 trade. Now, the back row is clear, though, if John Doe wants to go for some sort of play, if they've drawn anything useful the past couple turns. Let's see, though. We're going to go knock on the set, hitting a Magician of Faith. With honestly not any amazing targets in grave, but I can understand why Geist is setting it. Might as well. Unfortunately for Geist, they're light at the moment, getting banished by knock, so BLS is not going to be achieved anytime soon. Nice knock there from John Doe. And we're going to go fire off the card destruction. Yeah, so knowing that the BLS is in hand, I guess makes you more likely to go for the card D, especially that John Doe just found the Thunder Dragon as well. So now they can basically do this for free, dig a little bit further into the deck, and Geisty is going to lose their BLS. So definitely, on balance, advantageous for John Doe at this point in time. Geist loses a copy of Meta as well as their Snatch Steal, which are some potentially big units. We'll see what John Doe is cashing in. A dead Chaos Sorcerer, but Sork hitting the grave does get Light, Dark, and Grave for future Chaos. And they're losing Tribe of their own, which of course doesn't match up super favorably against the opponent's tribe. But the important thing is that they're able to cash in their Thunder Dragons, and both players will get a nice fresh grip of cards. Still John's main phase 1, so plenty of play left available to them. Still has their normal summon too. And like I mentioned before, card destruction setting up for a Chaos play. Going to slam down the second copy of Chaos Sorcerer, and just go ahead and beat over the tribe. Definitely makes sense. Chaos live here for Geisty now that the BLS hit the grave. I'm not sure. I feel like Geist lists don't normally play like Premature or Call of the Haunted. Doesn't really seem to be that style of deck. So not worrying about banishing the tribe. Would rather just get in for the damage. And the damage is also extra relevant because Geisty is so low on health after that massive Solemn Judgment earlier. So I definitely like John Doe getting a little bit more aggressive here. Because every life point means more the closer you get to 0. And then we're going to go ahead, set a monster, set a back row. So that card destruction really just kind of turned things around pretty tremendously. John Doe finding a Chaos monster, a potential flip monster as a threat, and gets lots of action here to unbrick their hand. And now Geisty is the one on the back foot, with this Sork representing a 2-turn clock. If this face down is like Gravekeeper Spy, you might just lose next turn, right? So Geist has to tread very, very carefully here. Gonna go just main phase 1 Scapegoat, playing around potential set MST or Raigeki Break or anything like that. Just wants to get it on the board and then maybe go for like a creature swap or something, potentially. Okay, we're gonna go Scapegoat into Upstart Goblin. Interesting. Alright. And then Asura Priest is gonna come down, setting something in case it's like a Morphing Jar, I guess. And then we're probably just gonna poke the set monster, see what it is. And it is Gravekeeper Spy, so John Doe would have had lethal, assuming they have second Spy in deck. So Geisty here, putting up the shields, definitely makes sense. They're going to crash into the Spy, which isn't amazing, but at least now you know what you're up against. And now you pass with these Goat tokens, kind of walling you out. However, with 3 monsters bearing down on you, if John Doe decides to just send them all at you and you have no battle traps or anything, these Goat tokens aren't going to last super duper long. Wait. This shouldn't have been allowed, right? We went Scapegoat and then normal summon Asura Priest in the same turn. We can't do that, right? Because that was just like on Geist's turn, activate Scapegoat straight from hand. So shouldn't have been able to do that. Now, it might not matter too much. Geist maybe, I guess, just taking a little bit extra damage. Um, and if John Doe's plan was just flip the spies and send everything anyway, maybe it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to go Sork, banish a token. Just send everything to defense. Spy's going to wall up in defense there as well and add another set monster. So interesting that John isn't willing to just send stuff in, but I guess worried about if we turned the spies to attack position and started beating down, they would all just die to the Asura Priest. So if anything, Geisty accidentally double summoning that turn maybe helped John Doe here because it gave them the intel to play a little bit more defensively here, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, you couldn't summon Asura. Right. Okay, so I guess accepted game state. um, sure. Fine. Fair enough. And then guy's gonna set a monster pass with the known Asura in hand. Or maybe we're setting Asura. That could be interesting as well. John Doe, we're gonna go flip summon Dekoichi. So now we're getting lots of units here. Still one that's vulnerable to Asura, but at least it floats. So you probably take a goat token with you before it dies. We're going to go duo here as well. So now you can just rip the Asura out of hand, which wouldn't be too bad. And yeah, you do hit the Asura and the last remaining Thunder Dragon. So this set monster is unknown, but John Doe might be clear to go get aggressive with all their monsters here. Still Mirror Force in the deck, potentially to worry about, but we'll see if they choose to do so. We're going to go Sork, continue to banish these tokens, and then try and clear out all of the monsters here with all of your flips. That way, if Geisty does have the Mirror Force, your Sork will still live. Dekoichi will attack the set. It is Dekoichi, so those will just crash with each other and wall out the spies. Interesting play there from Geisty. Oh, we're going to flip summon, or we're going to flip down the Chaos Sorcerer. I wonder if Geisty has like bluff set knock or something. That could be interesting. And then the spies will clear out the last two remaining goat tokens, so no fancy meta into Thousand Eyes play is available for Geisty anymore if they were to top deck that card. And now it's just the Tsukuyomi between you and your opponent. Oh, so interesting choice here. Flipping down the Sork so that your Suk gets bounced back to hand here is kind of interesting. I mean, you don't want to normal summon it now because you just have to flip down all of the opponent's monsters, which John would be happy about, presumably. But like maybe if Geist has bluff set knock, it makes sense. Let's see though. We're gonna go set a monster and a back row. So it's just the Suk set once again. Interesting. So yeah, maybe just hoping for top deck knock could be the play there with the Suk, and it's like, okay, if I try another normal summon, it's not the end of the world. That my Suk is clogging my hand now, but if I do top deck knock, removing the Sork would be really nice because then Tsukuyomi is just a stalemate with all these cards. So guys, you trying to cling on here. I like the play just to fish for some set monster removal. It didn't work out in this scenario. I guess this could also play into potential Torrential if Geisty has that as well. Because now if we have like flip summon of the Sork, you could go and activate Torrential. However, you could have just like triggered that yourself with the Tsukuyomi. So if that was your play, you probably don't play the Suk, right? So my guess was we were just fishing for a knock. Running an End-Phase Raigeki break from John Doe, discarding a Dead Trap Dust Shoot, which definitely makes sense. Gonna go pop the new back row, which was a bluff set creature swap. Interesting. Yeah, Geist. I guess. Yeah, no point in doing that when John Doe just has the Sork to banish whatever you would take. Now, creature swap plus a Spirit Monster is generally a nice combo, right? But with John Doe having so many not so great monsters on their side of the field, it's totally fine. I mean, I guess it would be nice to get one of these monsters because then you could like Suk it face down and still go for your own stuff, assuming Geist has spies in their list. But the presence of Sork makes that not really a plan because whatever you end up with will just get banished by the Sork. So honestly, trading the swap for the Raigeki break is probably fine. But now John Doe just has this already tested back row to go up against. Because there is a world where Geisty mirror forces these three cards, even if you're not getting the big target, which is the Chaos Sorcerer. This is still a decently profitable mirror force on all three of these. So it's a little bit less likely that this is mirror force if you're John Doe. Not sure if you still want to completely play into it. because you do want to kind of make progress. But you're so far ahead that maybe it's, fine to risk it, I guess. We're going to go flip summon Sork. That is okay. So now this is, yeah, so now you can't poke it with something else because then the Sork will flip down, or the Sook will flip down the Sork and you're not making any progress. So you have to go and actually risk the Mirror Force by attacking the Sook with the Sork if you want to clear it out. And we're just going to ring it, actually. So Geisty going to drop down really low, but now they've established the Tsukiyomi at least to stalemate this board state at this point in time, which is probably the best strategy available to you. Yeah, and Tsukiyomi, if it gets poked by either of these monsters, can just flip itself face down, so it's not like you're enabling your opponent's flips or anything. So Geisty did find a line to survive for now, still, of course, very far behind. Turbo, just kind of attacking you with the bits and pieces of its leftover monsters, as it generally does. But Jondo's going to have to find a little bit more aggression here if they want to seal this deal out. Very close to being the end of game one here, though. Geisty draws a back row. We're going to set it pass. And we're just going to ring on the Spy for game because this was set. There's no, book or anything to worry about. So this is just going to be GG. And Jondo takes it down game one. Definitely off to a solid early lead. Opened up with Pot of Greed. I mean, I guess it was both players kind of bricked early on. Lots of, do nothing for a few turns. But then Jondo was able to resolve that Thunder Dragon into card destruction, and then took over the game from there. Their Sork lived for several turns, which anytime you're playing a Chaos deck and they have a Chaos Monster live for, more than 2 turns, it's pretty rare that they lose that game, because they just get so much advantage turn after turn. And then from that point onwards, Jondo was just able to apply the pressure, and then having the ring here to seal it out in classic Turbo versus Chaos Control fashion. We will go to game 2, though. Geisty will be able to go first once again. We'll see if either player has anything spicy out of the side deck. But Geisty looking to have a little bit better of a start here compared to last game. Opening Thunder Dragon is quite nice. So already off to a better start than last game, I would say. And then we're going to set a couple back rows. Still no opening monster to play here. But at least you were able to, find your Thunder Dragons, thin the deck, all that good stuff. We are going to get Trap Dust Shoot here once again. So we'll get a peek at both hands. Geists. We got known double TD. We see BLS in the opener again for the second game in a row. Halfway to being live. No Dark in the Grave just yet, of course. None in hand either, so it might be a while till we see this one. Snatch and Heavy are both situational but powerful cards as well. So could be really interesting. I mean, and you can see kind of the strength of Dust Shoot here. Geist is playing with some very situational cards. But if you have the full knowledge of what your opponent can be doing thanks to this Dust Shoot, it makes it a lot easier to know when to, invest these cards to the board. John Doe's hand is a decent one. However, it doesn't really do too much if you take away this Dekoichi. So that seems like the obvious Trap Dust Shoot pick here, just to kind of brick them. And then there's Break with no discard outlets, so you don't care too much about that. Mirror Force is a good card to know to play around. Although I feel like Mirror Force doesn't make the cut against Control most of the time. So interesting to see that in the 55 or in the 40 post side here out of John Doe. And then John Doe is lucky enough to at least have a Jar of Greed into this Dust Shoot, so they will retain some hidden information. But yeah, I think you just send back the Dekoichi, and John is just going to kind of brick here. Now, notably, pending what this back row is, Geisty has also bricked a little bit. No real play just yet. So we might have a similar game to game one where whoever can draw into some action, find a good card filtration card, like Card Destruction or Graceful Charity first, might be in a good position. But yeah, Deco gets sent back, and then I just presume John Doe will set Jar Pass. Seems pretty solid. Geisty has Jar of their own, so two chances, I should say, to draw into some potential gas here. We'll see if they found any, though. They found Graceful Charity. There you go. Okay, so found something to do and a way to cash in their Thunder Dragon. So really, really solid string of draws there to draw into this Graceful and fully unlock the hand. Going to be really solid. Discard those 2 Thunder Dragons, of course. And then we can go set a monster pass, but Geisty probably very happy to at least find a play that turn and get the full +1 with the Graceful plus TD combo. So John Doe gonna have this Jar to do a similar thing and draw into another unknown. But we didn't see any knocks in hand, so might be tough for them to deal with this set card. Looks like they don't have one. Just gonna set a back row pass. Could be Mirror Force, could be Raigeki Break, could be something new, but those are, of course, the two cards that are top of mind. Geisty, let's see. Ooh, we found Magician of Faith, so we get to go Graceful into Flip Faith into Graceful, and Geist is just rolling in card advantage at this point in time. We'll see if they have any discard outlets or if they want to save the Graceful for a rainy day. Just going to fire it off here. Definitely opportunity to get a Dark Engrave to unlock the BLS in your hand as well. We're going to discard. Ooh, we found Sinister Serpent as well, so this is another extra plus here off of this Graceful. And suddenly Geisty is just in an insane lead at this point in time. Getting a Dark Engrave as well, discarding that Gravekeeper Spy, turning on the BLS that we know is in hand as well. And yeah, Geist is just in a very, very solid position now. We're going to go normal summon Sangan, get aggressive. I like it. Poke in for 13 very safely. No need to slam down the BLS now. That is your ace. That is your finisher, especially in Chaos Control. So let's just whittle down the opponent and then use the BLS later on to control the board. I like the game plan here out of Geist so far, and they're in a very good spot. Adding a back row as well, giving John Doe another thing to think about. But John Doe very much on the back foot at this point in time. Gonna go set a monster pass, so just trying to wall some stuff out. Geisty has seen a lot of cards, so although we didn't see any knocks or anything earlier when the Dust Shoot happened, definitely a decent chance that they drew into at least some sort of set monster removal at this point in time. Spy should not go back to hand. It should be the Sinister Serpent, right? Yeah, that's funny. And we're going to go Breaker here, so keeping the aggression going, going to try and pop this back row. Let's see. It's going to be Torrential Tribute. That's honestly fine if you're Geisty. Faith already floated. Sangan's going to float. Breaker kind of trades one for one with the Torrential, and if John Doe has a real set monster, this is actually just even more card advantage for Geisty. It is Gravekeeper Spy as well. Okay, so that is absolutely tragic for John Doe. I guess maybe making the read that their Spy is probably not going to last too long, right? I mean, we know Geisty could have just gone BLS, summon that, banish it if they really wanted to, now that they cleared out the back row. But maybe reading Knock in hand as well. But man, taking collateral damage, killing your own Spy with your Torrential just to wipe this from the board. And, I mean, if Geist didn't have a follow-up, Spy's going to wall out everything. So that's an interesting kind of choice here. Maybe John Doe saying, you know what, I'm far behind. I just want a reset of everything. But now Geist, sure, they use their normal summon, but they get a Sangan search. If they want to just summon Chaos and get in for a bunch of damage, they can definitely do that as well. Interesting choice there from John Doe. Definitely on the back foot, so I can understand why you might feel forced into doing that to kind of stop the bleeding. But I feel like Geist is in a good position to capitalize on this. We're going to grab Tsukuyomi off the Sangan. We know Serp is already in hand, so that's kind of the second string Sangan search, right? If Serp is already taken, pending any other tactical reasons to take other things. But Suk is definitely a good choice. And we're going to set a back row and then pass turn, discarding Serpent for hand size for free. And so Geist, once again, I think smartly, playing it safe. No need to go slam BLS and go super crazy just yet. You're still up a bunch of cards. You're forcing John Doe into some awkward trades. So let's just control the game and try and finish it off later on. Seems good to me. John Doe gonna draw for turn. Add a back row pass. Cool. Geisty can grab that Serpent once again. Normal summon available now. We're going to go normal summon DD Warrior Lady. Another very safe monster for aggression, just to apply some pressure, whittle down the opponent, get them in range for the BLS kill later. I like the way Geisty is doing this. Safe aggression is the name of the game. Sure, your opponent has Mirror Force, but now you've gotten through Mirror Force, you've gotten through Torrential, and eventually John Doe is going to run out of answers, right? Especially when you have more cards than they do. So all going according to plan here for Geist. Life points aren't, super different right now, but Geist is slowly wearing down John Doe. Gonna go discard Serpent again in the end phase. John is gonna go set a monster pass again, so now we'll actually get the chance to see if Geist has that knock or anything like that, maybe Mindcon. We are gonna see knock come out, hitting another Gravekeeper Spy. Totally fine for both players. They already have a Dark Engrave, so not the end of the world. And then Geist does have some additional pressure here. We're going to go ahead and normal summon a Surah Priest. So once again, very safe pressure. hard to deal with for the opponent. You get to poke him for 17 every turn, and sooner or later, John Doe will be, in BLS range. So once again, Geisty just safely applying this pressure, slowly but surely whittling John Doe down, and I feel like it's working out quite well so far. John Doe gonna add some back row and a set monster, so finally committing multiple cards to the board, meaning Geist might not just be able to safely go for, like, answer your one play, summon Asura, beat in. We might see stuff start getting committed to the board. Things maybe will start simplifying at some point, potentially. We're going to get Trap Dust Shoot out of John Doe, though. Okay. So good opportunity to see what Geist is rocking. We have, a lot of this was known. BLS Heavy Snatch have been in the hand since turn 1. And then we see a nice hand of other stuff as well. We knew about Sinister, Sook, and Asura Priest. And then we also have a Mirror Force and a Solemn Judgment in the mix. So if you're John Doe, you don't see any set monster interaction, so I wonder how worried you are about Asura Priest. You probably just have to send back BLS because it is live. So that generally is the play when you just shoot your opponent and you see BLS that can be played. Thinking hard here, though, so maybe not as obvious as I would think. Obviously going to depend on the cards you have in hand, but I feel like you can never go wrong with sending back BLS, Yeah, BLS will get sent back. Generally a safe bet in these scenarios. And then Geist is going to go here for the Asura play once more. Just going to poke the set monster. We'll see what it is. It is Tsukuyomi, so we will be able to get a nice extra plus here for Geisty as well. Asura beating over the Sook, John just kind of throwing it out as a chump blocker, I guess. It will strand the BLS on the board, flipping it face down to potentially get answered. So maybe this is a little bit of a gambit here for John Doe, similar to like a Book of Moon. You trade a card on your opponent's turn to make their monster vulnerable for you to clean up on your turn. However, until you're able to clean up this monster, you are just down a card from this exchange. So it can be kind of risky. But we'll see if John Doe can kind of make it happen here. Geist gonna set another back row as well. Honestly, pretty likely that is the Solemn Judgment at this point in time, especially when you have 2 other back row just to protect from potential Heavy Storm. Makes sense to me. And we'll see, relatively important turn right now to see if John Doe can deal with this Asura Priest. Otherwise, it's just going to be, like I said before, a free +1 for Geisty, essentially. Let's see. John Doe does have Graceful Charity. Okay. So, digging for some gas here. We're going to discard Magician of Faith and a Knight of Silence. We're going to be able to bounce either the Spy or the Faith back to hand. So getting a nice plus off the Graceful is nice to keep them kind of in this game in terms of card advantage. However, you have an interesting choice. Well, actually, no, at this point in time, I guess now you have Graceful Engrave as a Faith target, but Faith is your only Light Engrave, so maybe you keep it in if the play is to go Chaos this turn. Let's see. No, we're going to bounce the Faith, so potentially signifying to Geist that John Doe does not have Chaos in hand at this point in time. And looks like John will be playing to kind of try and recur this Graceful at a later point. Seems to be the game plan. We're going to go Upstart Goblin here as well. Dig a little bit further into the deck. And then we're going to knock this Asura Priest. Okay, so Asura here actually getting a lot of value. John Doe unable to find a clean way of answering it. And now this basically just got a 2-for-1, right? It traded for the knock and the Tsukuyomi. And got in for some damage, so Asura did a really, really solid job here. You can see Spirit Monsters, they're kind of a double-edged sword, right? They do require, an investment of your normal summon every time you want to play them, but they are really awkward for lots of decks to deal with if they don't have, like, quick effect removal. And so John Doe, unfortunately for them, having to expend 2 cards to deal with this threat just to protect their life points, and a deck like Chaos Control is going to take that to the bank every time. You know what I mean? If you're making unfavorable trades against Control to stop them from pressuring you, like, you basically already lost. You know what I mean? We're going to set a monster here as well, but I think Geist, yeah, as I mentioned many times so far this game, Geist is slowly grinding this one out. I don't really see them losing it from this position. I haven't for a very long time. Honestly, ever since we went Graceful into Faith into Graceful, I didn't think Geist was losing this, and nothing has really changed my mind so far. We're gonna get end phase Jar of Greed out of Geist. It's a little interesting. Not entirely sure what would make us want to do it in the end phase there, but probably doesn't matter too much. Let's see what the play is. We're gonna go fire off the Heavy Storm, so likely going for a play. Maybe we found BLS again, potentially. John Doe is at 5,000, so if you can just clear some stuff out, that is definitely like Alpha Strike range, right? This will just resolve, clearing out Geisty's Mirror Force and Scapegoat. So they set the Mirror Force instead of the Solemn Judgment. I guess expecting that if John Doe went for the Sook chump block play to set the Azure Priest down, their play was probably to like beat over it on the next turn with like a Dekoichi or a Breaker or something. So the Mirror Force could have protected it. So I understand why you would set it there. But now it's just going to be a casualty to this Mirror Force. So Geisty kind of liquidating their card advantage a little bit here, but trying to set up for probably a big play right now, so it might not matter. Hitting Raigeki Break is nice, and now you know there's nothing to get in the way of your plans. Yeah, we can go ahead. Summon BLS, nice. Banish the set. Hitting Magician of Faith. Then we have the Tsukuyomi here as well to keep BLS safe from any like Snatch Shields or anything like that, and apply a little bit of pressure. And now you are threatening lethal next turn with the BLS plus Sook combo. So yeah, like I just said, Geisty finding an opportunity to put, a lethal amount of pressure here on John Doe. So it's fine if you have to liquidate and, sacrifice some of your cards to do this, because basically trading their card advantage for board presence and life point advantage. It's all about recognizing where you have advantages in certain resource categories and then converting them into the ones that matter to actually make you win the game is basically the way I think about it. And so Geisty finding their spot to basically take their card advantage and go, okay, now it's time to win the game with it. I'll sacrifice stuff I don't really care about it because I'm going to win the game. Right. And that's something you should think about while you're playing, I feel like, is, where am I ahead of my opponent right now, and how can I maybe use that advantage to pivot into another one that's more important at this point in time. You know what I mean? But yeah, Sook's gonna get in, and Geisty is now, like I mentioned, threatening lethal. So John Doe gonna have to find something to do here. One knock already used, so less likely you have that ready for this BLS. Got to upstart here just to try and draw an out. We know that Geisty has Solemn Judgment most likely set here. So you're going to need 2 outs to this BLS if you want to live as well, which is not an enviable position to be in by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to go fire off the Heavy Storm, so you get to bait out the Heavy, or bait out the Solemn at least. Geist will take a big 5k life point hit for this. And then John Doe's going to set a back row pass. So something in the way of this potential lethal strike. We'll see if Geist just plays through it or wants to be a little bit more cautious. We're just going to, just end phase Raigeki Break and set it for the win, right? Discard the Known Serpent. Hit the set, and then this is just GG pending Karibo. All right. Or actually, sorry, no, this isn't lethal. That's my bad. Because you can't actually summon BLS and Sook at the same time. Right? Because you'd have to go flip summon BLS, summon Sook, flip it face down. Now you can just hit your opponent for 3k this turn, which is probably almost just as good. So yeah, let's just hit him for 3k. Drop him to 900. You have Ring for game if you really want it as well. And now we're passing with lethal on board. And an extra back row. Hand is Serp Sook. And so John Doe, I guess, bought a little bit of time, potentially, but once again, still not looking too good. Just adding another back row. Geisty. Gonna go BLS. Sook, yeah, might as well just poke in with the Sook. In case it's like a third Raigeki Break, or like a Sakuretsu Armor, or something. Or even Ring. I guess Ring, John Doe loses anyway, so probably not Ring. But this is safer. Now they have to use their removal on the Sook instead of the BLS to prevent the lethal. And that is going to be game 2 going over to Geist. Yeah, that was basically a whole lot of garbage time. Geist was basically in the commanding position ever since the second Graceful Charity resolved. But played it out very, very well. Just really, playing that out exactly how I think Control should from a dominant position. Just safely apply pressure with your Asura Priest, your DD Warrior Ladies, stuff like that are hard to answer. John Doe had to do some awkward stuff to deal with them. And then you just kind of whittle away the opponent until you can finish them off with your big boss monsters. That's how Geisty makes their money in Ghost format, and that was just textbook Geisty Chaos Control there in Game 2. Now, this does just force a Game 3, though, so John Doe on this turbo list will be able to go first, which could be very important. Gonna open Thunder Dragon here, so off to a decent start already. And then into T-set pass, so not a bad start here for John Doe. We'll see if Geisty can absorb this early pressure or not. Gonna fire off the knock, the instant way to remove any sort of tempo gains from the first turn player. Hitting Koichi as well, so removing a bunch of darks from deck. For both players, honestly. Geisty maybe just playing the 1 or having another copy in hand. And then Geist is going to follow up with a T-set pass of their own, stealing back the tempo from John Doe. And now it's like they were going first the whole time, basically. John Doe has Upstart Goblin. Dig a little bit further into Jar. So we're really doing the deck thinning thing here. Trying to find a knock, most likely. No Minecon seen in from either player in Game 2, despite it being a relatively long one, is a little bit interesting. Probably something you want against the Geisty flavor of Chaos Control, I would think. I'm not sure if Geist generally runs Minecon. I could see them maybe not. John Doe going to follow up with their own T-set pass here, but like I mentioned before, Geisty up the tempo. See what they can do with it. Going to flip up Magician of Faith to grab the knock and just continue to keep John Doe on the back foot. Nice. I like this play. Fire it off, banish the set. It's Serpent. Sure, it's not a flip, but you know what? When we're so early in the game and I remove my Chaos Turbo opponent, Sinister Serpent, on like turn 2, I'm really happy about that. Now their best discard fodder in their deck is gone for all of their key pieces later on. Like, think about what are some of the best cards against Chaos Control, right? Raigeki Break, Tribe Infecting Virus. So not having Serp for those is definitely pretty awesome. Not sure, John Doe could be potentially baiting for a different high prio flip, but losing Serp this early on is probably going to be an issue for them down the line, if I had to guess. Guess you're just going to beat in for 300 with the Faith. Why not? And then add another set monster. So really, really amping up the pressure here. Basically just playing the turbo game a little bit better than the turbo player at this point in time. But that is, you know, the power of Nobleman of Crossout. One of the best cards in the format going second, I feel like, and really showing its worth here. John Doe has another set monster to worry about. Didn't have an answer to the Faith, so yeah, unsurprisingly does not have an answer to the second one. Geist could just go ahead with a little bit of Gravekeeper Spy action, maybe to Koichi of their own. We only saw one banished, and I feel like Control generally will run 2 to Koichi, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was just another one. Oh, we're going to go set a monster, Faith the defense, add a back row, and then not flip this up. So Geisty maybe doing a little bit of baiting of their own. And maybe now this is a real flip. A little bit interesting. But slowly building up the board here. And a lot of stuff here potentially for John Doe to deal with. Let's see. We're going to go normal summon Magician of Faith. Okay. What is the plan with this? Oh, to just trigger Torrential Tribute. Okay. Well, so this is kind of similar to last game where this isn't actually a high-value Torrential Tribute out of John Doe. These are basically 2 real cards and your normal summon. And you're using it for half a card, a bluff, and then 1 real card. Feels pretty good for Geisty, I feel like, on balance. I know it looks like John Doe is up a bunch of cards, but 2 of them are just dead Thunder Dragons. Maybe it's fine. I guess let's see what we hit. Yeah, we hit the Sangan, so that's just going to float. And now you're trading 2 real cards and your normal summon for like a card and a half. And you turn Chaos on for your opponent without turning it on for yourself either. So this seems really nice for Geisty. You hit a second Magician of Faith, but that was only going to grab Knock here, which isn't the end of the world. So yeah, I think Geist is probably pretty happy with this. Gets the Sangan search here as well. Probably we'll see Serpent, or maybe like the Spy might be good here. It's pretty clear that John Doe doesn't have any answers to set monsters, so a well-timed Gravekeeper Spy resolution might be pretty nice. We're just going to grab the Serpent, though. Definitely often the right call off of Sangan, so not surprised to see that. But I think card advantage-wise, it's looking pretty even, but the way John Doe is playing makes me think that Geisty is in a pretty good spot at this point in time. Gonna add another back row pass. Geisty found Graceful Charity, so that is a good reason to go grab Sinister Serpent off Husangin, is if you had the Graceful waiting in the wings. We'll see if this resolves. It will, and now Geisty is going to, ramp up now further in card advantage as well. I think it was already in the lead in terms of tempo and like card quality, if that's like a concept that makes any sense. Um, but now just getting a nice little +1 here as well to basically put them in the lead in terms of every relevant category, I think. Discard Serpent, and then second one, not so obvious. Going to discard Metamorphosis. We actually haven't seen a single meta resolve at all this match, which is kind of interesting. But, game one, it got ripped out of the hand pretty early on. And then game two, Geisty was just ahead the whole game and was the one pressuring the opponent, so there was really no need ever to go for Thousand Eyes or anything like that. But maybe we won't even see meta used here in game three, now that it's getting discarded off of the Graceful. Now, this is interesting because Geist did have fodder for the meta in this Sinister that's just in the grave. But maybe if you have multiple copies of meta, they're a little bit redundant, so that could be potentially what's in Geist's hand. And then not actually playing any monsters here. Maybe Geist a little bit bricked at this point in time. Chaos live, but you probably don't just run one out here for little reason just to be aggressive at this point. So we might be in for another little bit of a holding pattern. But Geisty finding that Graceful plus Serp combo is really nice to kind of equalize some of the card advantages that we've seen from John Doe. Now, John does have double TD in hand, so if they can find a Graceful of their own, that'll put them into a pretty solid position, but low chance, of course, that they just top deck it. Let's see, though. Okay. Never mind! The Commentator's Curse. Graceful's going to come down and unlock John Doe's hand. Double TD in hand. Likely see those two as discards. No, we're actually going to do one better. We're just going to get the straight +1 here with the Knight of Silent plus Magician of Faith. And this is actually pretty big. You get to obviously plus off the Graceful, but you also get to keep a Dark Engrave with this Knight of Silent to keep Chaos live. So that was probably the best top deck in the deck for John Doe here. They found it, and now this game is going to be pretty interesting because both players have done a lot of good card filtration here. Yeah, bounce back the Faith, of course. Let's see what John Doe can do with all these new cards. Going to set a Monster Pass. Could very well just be that Faith trying to grab the Graceful again. Would love to get Graceful number 2 to cash in the 2 Thunder Dragons that are still in hand, of course. See what Geisty can do about that. Yeah. Okay. So, perhaps as expected, when you see the meta hit the grave, I feel like that means either A, or it could mean both things at the same time. It means you have another Metamorphosis, or you already have a card to, combo with the Scapegoat, right? So either creature swap or meta could be good here. Now, John Doe could be baiting here, because obviously everyone's going to expect this to be the Faith, because that was what was grabbed off the Knight Assailant. So if it is swap, might not always work out the best for Geisty. But likely has at least one of the two spells that you combo with the Scapegoat here, which is why they discarded that Metamorphosis. Kind of makes sense to me. And we're going to go end-phase Scapegoat to set up for one of those two cards to come through here, most likely. Regrab that Serp. It is the creature swap. Okay, so big moment here to see if John Doe went for a bait or if they said something real. And it is the Magician of Faith, so Geisty going for the big shot here, and we're going to resolve swap. You get to grab this Magician of Faith. You don't get to answer it just yet this turn, but threatening to re-grab Graceful next turn with the known Sinister Serpent in hand, which would be really, really strong. So John Doe, if you have knock, which we haven't seen up to this point, you're going to want to use it. Otherwise, you're going to fall pretty far behind. Oh, and then we're just going to go battle phase. This is cute. The GOAT format special, you can crash 2-0 attack position, or 2-0 attack monsters together to wipe them out. Just clear them out a little bit there. Makes sense. Geisty going to add a couple back over here as well, and just going to try and protect this Magician of Faith to try and resolve another Graceful Charity, and then, ratchet them further into a lead here. John Doe has Upstart, second one of the game, trying to dig for knock. We're halfway through the deck. Surely you found a knock, right? Looks like we found it, finally. Cool. So we do get to hit the Magician of Faith, so Geist will not be able to utilize that, but it does bait out the knock at least. Looks like no more Faiths left in either player's deck. Yeah, makes sense. And now John is going to set a monster of their own. So neither player really managing to deal any damage. This is just a battle of the flip monsters so far. Both players doing everything they can to resolve theirs and prevent their opponent from resolving theirs. And so far, no one's really gotten too much of an advantage yet. We've traded a couple Trinity pieces back and forth, but it's still kind of all even here at this point in time. Guys, here, do we have meta? Do we have another creature swap? Just going to pass. Okay, so John, I mean, I guess it's unlikely that this is Magician of Faith because one is banished, one is face down, or one is in the grave, so unlikely that this is Faith. But definitely could be like Spy would be good to clear out the tokens. I guess it can't be Takoichi probably, but could be Spy. Spy would be nice for John Doe. It is the Gravekeeper Spy coming through, summoning it in attack position, threatening to deal with both these tokens. Now we haven't seen Mirror Force yet, so this could be a little bit of an overextension, but we'll see if they get punished. And if we can sympathize with wanting to clear out these Go tokens, of course. So we're going to attempt to do that. And it's just going to go through. Okay, so nice little win here for John Doe, clearing out the remainder of that scapegoat. And now you actually have a little bit of pressure on board, 2,400 a turn clock, threatening to come in on Geisty at this point in time. Ooh, Geist is saying, okay, now it's time. So yeah, as expected, I think they had a Chaos in hand for a while, but just didn't see any decommitted to the board at any point. And now it is going to come down, so we're going to go ahead and summon Chaos Sorcerer, start working away on these spies. Interested to see if Geist has anything to protect this, or if it's just kind of like a one-time threat on the board to make John Doe kind of figure some stuff out. But the mini-boss will come down, banish that spy. Ooh, and we do have Tsukuyomi, okay, with one knock being used, and seeing as how long it took John Doe to find the first one, it seems unlikely that they're going to have the second one anytime soon. But playing around potential Snatch Steal with this Suk play is not too bad. And now Sork could stick around to continue to get more advantage for Geisty. If it does, really going to take control of this game. But if John Doe can answer it relatively quickly, not really going to be the end of the world because it only really dealt with half a spy so far. John is going to go ahead and Tsukuyomi of their own. So this is Turbo, so they're probably playing the third spy. So likely just going for that play. Or are we just putting it face down to prevent Sork from banishing it? That could also be the play. So it doesn't look like John Doe has a particular out to Sork at this point in time. But it could be a little bit awkward, like you might bait Geist into attacking over the spy, but then if John Doe has like Mirror Force or something, could answer the Sork that way. We'll see what Geist tries to do here in this scenario, because it could be interesting. Let's see. We're just going to set a monster, so leaving the Sork face down, adding a potential other threat. It's not going to be Faith, but we know Geist runs spies of their own. John Doe here, let's see. Do you flip the spy and potentially make them Sork bait, but thin the deck of the third one? You can always just flip another one down with the Suk, so it might be worth it if you have nothing else to do just to thin the deck of the third spy, because that's not really a great draw at this point in time. Just going to set a monster, though, keep the spy face down. Sure. And keeping them face down to protect them from Sork definitely makes sense. That seems to be what John Doe is prioritizing at this point in time. Let's see if Geist had a real set here. It is going to be Spy of their own. Cool. And they do have one in deck. Going to summon it in defense. You know it's not getting over at least that spy, but wouldn't be surprised to see it try and poke the new set monster at least. And at least you'll flip it face up for a potential Sork banish on the crackback. You know there's no Torrential to worry about, so main phase 2, flip summon Sork, banish this monster if it's still around. Is totally fine. And that's what we're going to try and do. It is Dekoichi, though, so you could just flip the Suk... Or sorry, it is Tsukuyomi. I see the 1400 and my brain goes to Dekoichi. But you poke the Tsukuyomi, so that can just set itself back face down and then still not leave you with any Sork targets. So Geist could have maybe gone and attacked with the second spy, flip this one up, and then at least made some progress with their own Sork. But right now it's just going to be a little bit more stalemated here for both players. And we might be in for a long one here. If the Sork can get dealt with, we're just in like a stalemate position. Right now, Geisty's technically ahead on board, but playing it very cautiously, of course. You don't know what the back row is, so don't want to just lose your Sork pretty easily without it actually getting too much value. Oh, and then Geist does have Sook on their spy. I don't think they're running the third copy of spy, so you're not really threatening to go summon that out. But getting it into defense position is, of course, nice because that is the stronger stat of the two on the monster. So John Doe here still has to worry about this Sork a little bit, but Geisty seems sufficiently scared to not do anything too crazy just yet. So all John Doe is going to do is add a card to the back row. Was at 7 cards in hand, so needed to get rid of something. All right. Geist here, is it time to get aggro with the Sork and start attacking? Or, yeah, so I like this play. Kind of like what I was suggesting to do last turn. You could attack the spy because you know what it is, flip it face up, and then start banishing them with the Sork to make at least a little bit of progress. They'll take some damage, but not the end of the world. John Doe does have the third copy in the deck. And I expect to see main phase 2, flip Sork, banish a spy, summon Sook, flip it back face down. Seems like something Geist would do at this point in time. And that's what we're going to see, and we're going to set another back row. And so Geist making a little bit of progress here. Not too much, but at least they have something to do at this point in time. That's one of those things that this is kind of a phase of GOAT format gameplay that is not always the most exciting to a lot of people. It's like, what do you do in these like complex spy wall scenarios? But I think it's important to do what Geist is doing here, where it's like, find a small way to make progress, right? Even if like you're just gonna have spies staring at each other for a while, you might as well still try to min-max things and like banish their spies, etc., etc. Because then when the board breaks and things simplify, those small advantages could get multiplied into bigger ones. So I like what Geisty is doing here. We're gonna get end phase MST on the new back row, hitting a Jar of Greed, sure. So nice little 1-for-1 trade, not the end of the world for either player, for sure. Runningo's Tribute set for Thunder Dragon, okay. Now this does just set up for another similar play for Geisty again, where you can just go Spy, poke the TD, banish it with the Sork. So not really too much progress made there, but you were potentially discarding something to hand size anyway, so might as well at least get a little bit of extra damage in with the Spy poking into the Thunder Dragon, I guess. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Geist do basically the same thing as last turn. And that's what we're going to try and do. There's no new backer out of John Doe, right? Oh, we're actually going to go Raigeki break the Sork here finally, using the last Thunder Dragon as discard fodder. But now you've actually gotten good value out of the Sork. You banished 2 copies of Spy, and you ate a Raigeki break plus Thunder Dragon. So even though Geist kind of threw out this Sork earlier on, into a potentially complicated state where it wasn't going to last for very long, potentially, they played it really well, slow played it, protected it with the Tsukuyomi, and was able to actually wrangle a good amount of advantage for it, and now forcing John Doe to answer it. And now basically force this stalemate, which honestly at this point in time probably favors Geisty, right? Because not only were they winning in the stalemate by being the one to make progress, they're also notably like decently ahead on cards in deck, right? So if it comes down to it, Geist is not above winning by deck out. Of course, that is definitely a trick up Chaos Control's sleeve. And so John Doe, when they don't have the inevitability, making all of these concessions just to get the match back into a stalemate, definitely favors the control player here. So it might not look like it based on everything that's going on here, but I think Geist is in a very, very solid position at this point in time. Main phase 2, we'll probably just see Sook set the spy back face down. And that's what we'll see. Geist here really keeping their cards close to the chest, but you have more cards in deck, so you're not really, forced to do anything at this point in time. And things are looking good for Geisty at this point. John Doe is going to, let's see. We're going to Heavy Storm. Okay, so going for a play, I guess John Doe realizing that, like I was saying, this stalemate scenario doesn't really favor them. So we're going for the nuclear option. We're going to try and simplify the game state, start making progress. Heavy Storm will be the catalyst here. Geisty looks like they're not going to Solemn Judgment it to protect stuff. So instead we're going to chain Raigeki Break and Jar of Greed. Raigeki Break, do you want to pop the Sook or the T-Drag? Interesting choice here. P-Drag is obviously a stronger monster, but Tsukuyomi is a little bit more nifty. But honestly, I feel like you're kind of don't care too much about Suk. Because if they want to do like some weird flip-flop stuff with the Suk and like set up a loop with the Dekoichi or something, I guess there's Faith and Dekoichi aren't even around. Yeah, I guess I just don't think Suk does much, so you might as well just deal with the Thunder Dragon, probably. Yeah, I think that makes sense. You get to jar and draw as well, so this is just 1-for-1 floats, and it's just heavy trading for the last remaining back row, which was a Torrential Tribute. Okay, now, so basically just a 1-for-1 trade there. Board state did simplify a little bit, but now the back row is clear if John Doe wants to make some sort of play. See what they choose to do. Gonna go fire off Minecon on the Gravekeeper Spy. Interesting. Okay, we know you don't have any spies left in deck, so I wonder what the plan is here. Okay. Oh, so, oh, we didn't, huh. Oh, are we just like gonna go for some crazy OTK line here? Or did John Doe forget that the set was Gravekeeper Spy, maybe? Or are we moving it out of the way for... Okay, this could be a cool play, actually. If we have, like, double Chaos to go for an OTK line. Right? So we mind-controlled the Gravekeeper Spy to get a monster on board that we could flip face up so that we could flip up the Tsukuyomi without having to flip down our normal summon for the turn. Okay. And then we're going Tribe Effect to pop the Suk to get another Dark Engrave so we can summon BLS plus Chaos Sorcerer. And then hit for 53 plus 16 is 69, 100 damage, which is a good amount. You're actually dealing most of Geisty's life total with this play. Can we get like third Sork somehow? I don't think so. I guess no, we have triple Chaos Engrave. Oh yeah. So do we have double Sork and BLS for the OTK? That would be insane. Double Sork. Oh no way. Wow, so John Doe had Heavy Storm plus Tribe to set up the Dark Engrave plus triple Chaos to go for the OTK, and so the Minecon both removing the monster from the board because it's an extra blocker and getting them away to flip the Suk face up so that it could die to the Tribe without the Suk having to actually flip down the Tribe because you needed the extra 1600 points of damage. That is insane. This is such a cool line. And John Doe using, heavy Minecon and all of these pieces, and we're going to get an OTK line here. That's crazy. And that's it, right? Yeah, just banish everything. Triple Thunder Dragon coming in clutch has all of the lights you need for all of your Chaos monsters. And that is game. That's crazy. Holy moly, what a line. I was saying Geist was in a good position, making progress in that stalemate, forcing out weird concessions from John Doe, but they just had the OTK line ready to go here with triple Chaos. Wow, that's crazy. Holy moly. And John Doe's going to take it down 2-1. Turbo versus Chaos Control completely OTKing 8,700 life points out of nowhere here in Game 3 to steal it away from Geisty, who seemed to be on the trajectory to just grind this one out. And that is going to be all she wrote, guys. Really, really cool match. Really fun ending. Hope you enjoyed this one. I will catch you all next time.